Hello friends, greetings for the day. Welcome back to another tutorial of Excel where we are talking about what if analysis today. What if analysis, the third component which we are talking about today is data table. Now what if analysis, as I've told you earlier in the previous tutorials, that this basically helps you to manage your data based on certain formulas entered. Now it's only the trick of the formula which helps you to minimize your efforts and evaluate complex values. Now today we'll be talking about data table, which helps you to manage your big data tables using certain simple formulas where you don't have to create the manual calculations for the entire sheet. Rather, you can do it with one shot using one single aspect. So we'll be talking about data table. We do find some of the example what I will be taking today is to go ahead with simple mathematical calculations, which you might be very much familiar with. So let's try that here. One thing we start with is the multiplication, where most of us get complicated when it comes to mathematic tables. For example, let's talk about the simple calculations here. Like, for example, till 1 to 10, we know that, what 2 multiplied by 4 is 8. 11 multiplied by 4 is 44. 10 multiplied by 5 is 50. So these are simple things. Now let's talk about something more complicated, where I'm just creating a simple calculator, say num1, that stands for number 1, and number 2. So two inputs, where say for example I put it as 3 and 4. And here I say it as product of that is equal to this C2 multiplied by C4. C2 multiplied by C3 is going to give you the result of that. Now everybody knows that simple calculation. You would have learned it in the previous tutorials. So this is how we can do a simple calculations. So let's talk about some more complicated mathematics tables, which sometimes we get stuck with our kids when they ask us, what is 17 multiplied by 7? Or 19 multiplied by 9? 23 multiplied by 3? Or say 57 multiplied by 3. So instead of that, we can quickly do it with help of Excel, and that's what the best use of data table is. So let me just show you quickly an example here. So maybe I can use some random values, which helps me to help you out with complicated tables. So here we have some 27, then 37. Let me use some odd values, which people commonly find it difficult. And say 53, maybe now let me go with 79. All right, and then keep one simple thing so that we can cross verify. And on the other side, I'll be having another mathematical terms, like the usual formulas to multiply two numbers. So for your reference, I'm using say num1 on the row and the num2 on the columns. So I'm just putting them apart from each other so that we can understand. So that's my data table if I just highlight it here. So I am having one number on the columns and another number on the rows, which is going to be multiplied. So to create the entire table is very simple. You just have to select this entire table and then go to what if analysis, drop down, pick up data table, and just give him the inputs of what is there in the row and what is there in the columns. So row input cell is number 1, or you can switch it around because multiplication can go either way. So you can say number 2 also, or number 1 as well. And in column, I have number 2 as I've specified here. So I'm using that and say okay, and hooray, we've got the complete table here, and we have achieved the big table with no complications, just within fraction of seconds. Now, in case you don't believe me if it is true or not, so let's highlight a value. Let's go to Home tab and use highlighters. So let's go 51 multiplied by 7 and highlight it to check if it is true. So this is our calculator which we created earlier. So let's enter here, multiplied by 7. And as you can see, it's 357. So that's how we deal with data tables. So it's quite simple. There's no magic behind this option again. All catch lies within one small thing, where I selected the first row or the first cell of this table as the formula. Team, you need to just make sure that when you create this table, I used wisely the very first cell containing the parent formula, which should be applied to number 1 and number 2. Now, if you see that here, you don't have a static data. If you see on the address function bar, you will see it is a matrix. So if I select any other cell, it's a matrix of C2 by C3. So it's performing a calculation based on the product what I gave him in the first cell. Now, for example, if I don't have a value here, like a formula here in this cell, which is the very first cell of the table, everything becomes 0. So now you can understand it is dependent on that first cell, which must create or have the formula which is you're supposed to apply to the whole thing. Now, let me quickly give you another example of this. So I'm just quickly creating another sheet where I'm trying to give you another example of it with respect to something else. Say, for example, I'm having the store, which I spoke about earlier. The product, maybe the rate, the quantity, and the discount, what I'm offering. And overall, what is the amount to be paid? So say, for example, I'm buying a product worth rupees 100 and 2 pieces of that, where I'm giving them 0.2%, that is 20% discount. So this is how I can convert it to 20%, but still remains 0.2. So to get the amount, you can manually calculate and say it is 160 rupees what is supposed to be paid. But let's use a formula for that. That is, open the brackets, open again another bracket, because that's the rule of mathematics. When you want to do a sub calculation, you need to use brackets. So the thing you start with is the total amount without discount. So 100 multiplied by 2 and close the brackets. That is, it will give you the total value 200. And then what is that you have to do is subtract it from what is that you have to subtract from the total value? The discounted value. So you need to multiply all three. 100 multiplied by quantity multiplied by the discount, and close the bracket, close the parent bracket as well, and hit enter. Now I've got 160 here. So what I've done here is multiply the total value, then subtracting the discounted value. How to get discounted value? Multiply all three, and you get 160 here. Now I can quickly create a big scene with simple steps. So say, for example, I'm having rate here, and I'm going to have the quantities here. So say, for example, sometime I want to keep a chart which helps my customers quickly to purchase some quick items worth rupees, different odd numbers or even numbers which find quite difficult for them to go ahead and calculate the final amount. So say, for example, I'm putting the rates in columns 237. So I might have some standard products which have some definite rates like 631, then 737, 839, and 933, or say, for example, 1000. Now on the other side, I'm keeping again some even numbers for the quantity which people find difficult sometimes to measure. 7, 9, 13, 17, 19. So I have rates in the columns, as you can see here, and the quantity in the rows. So all I have to do is, having this cell in the very first cell, having this formula in the very first cell of the table, I'm going to select it like this, and then go to Data tab, What If Analysis, Data Table, and row input. What's there in my row? As you can see, I have quantity, so let's select quantity. Column inputs, I have as rate, so let's select rate and say OK. Now I've got the complicated thing done in simple steps where I have the rate list of everything. Now again, just to cross check, maybe I can pick again a random value, say 933, a rate of a product rated 933, and I'm buying 17 pieces of that. So let's quickly highlight that to keep it as reference. Here it goes, and let's try that here. So the product rate is 933 and the quantity what I'm buying is 17. Now you can see that the value is the same what we got in the table. Now, this is what you call it as data table, which can help you in various ways. Even when you talk about the financial calculations, where you want to go with simple interest, compound interest, or calculating the EMIs, or any kind such of the programs where you can just print out these information in a form of table, maybe beautifully formatted before you go ahead with printing it, and then put it as a kind of reference chart for the newcomers or the customers who would like to refer that before they talk to you or something. Maybe even you can print these as mathematical tables and put it on the desk of your kid, which can be easy way of accessing it without any kind of much effort. So these are some simple things, or some complicated things, however you define it, can be done with very simple efforts. And this is how you can minimize your manual efforts using Excel. So team, today we understood about another component of what if analysis data table, and I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the video and definitely learned something new today. Do comment your queries, doubts, clarifications below so that I can get back to you with more details on the same and get it clarified. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel to get latest updates on the new videos about basic Excel and advanced. To get notified, do not forget to click on the bell icon. Thank you team for watching the video. Happy learning.